Friday, and it's the first evening of the weekend in Chichester and Portsmouth. This is the dining room of the college. Our meal is here tonight. As usual, the usual suspects. Jonathan doing his bit. It's a bit wet, weak and blindy. It's 5:30 in the evening. We unfortunately have rain promised for the whole of the weekend, but hopefully it might shift across more quickly than they suggest.
Meanwhile, there is already in the system where I can see.
All ready for the off. Having had breakfast. Comes Elaine's bag carrier. Greetings, salutations. There we are, getting ready for the off. That's our bus station position with shelter cover.
Here's your watch. And it goes into the supernatural.
I think we've got enough
Well, I haven't yet. I hope I won't go to them later. Oh, with parents, yeah. I think
The nice thing about it is you can see on there. So it's quite handy with me. So you can hold it on your heads of crowds and still see what you're filming.
on Sunday nights, and there are, and I think.
So here we are on the walk to the bus. You go in, I'll do some filming, get a seat.
His video director. Yeah.
Well, if you don't want me to, I won't do it.
No, I want you to. I want.
Yes.
I'll sign the release.
Yes,
forms.
right.
I think I'm going to stay on this line.
All passengers are being recorded.
Your visit may be recorded for training.
Yes. Having now walked from the bus shelter to the bus. Greetings. Somebody's dropped their umbrella cover.
Right, okay, let's just take it inside then.
You'll be pleased to know I'm putting them on DVDs now, as opposed to tapes.
Oh, right.
They're easier to send.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
All right.
Wish I had my hat.
Yeah.
Downstairs is fine.
Get on it.
Whatever, I don't mind.
Celebrities do it things like this.
No names, no pack drill.
I think so.
This is posh, isn't it? Oh, wonderful. This is not a camera.
No. You and several other people, unfortunately.
I'm on candid camera.
Yes, you're on candid camera. Yes. Yes. It's all right, Catherine. I know you're under there.
Let's do that.
Yes. Paparazzi. Yes.
Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Guy.
After you.
Hello. The only chance I've probably got to get all of you.
Morning, Ken. Nice to see you back in here.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Greetings.
Morning, Ken.
You go and put your box down somewhere. Just stuff them in there, that'd be great. I'm not going up, I'll stand. I'll stand in the luggage. That's what I'm doing.
She's a mature lady, so it's still powerful when they push that coming in. The story is peculiar. So it's the lower leg area.
Go down to TikTok. I don't. What's your Jonathan is the man who claims to be the nerd. But he's going to talk to you about getting some cabs and things that are less ambulant. So.
No, don't.
Right. I'm interested in schedule. That's right. What are you doing? You're going to build. Yes, we go. This is the man who's actually organized. Jonathan! Right.
Yeah.
You can just wait here for 2 seconds. Sherlock Holmes Society to the Royal Navy Submarine Museum here in Gosport. What we're going to do today is that we're going to split you into 3 groups, and one group will go on board HMS Alliance, which is our 1947 Second World War submarine, and have a tour through the submarine with one of our veteran submariners. Another group will go into the museum and look at the historical displays, which run from early submarines right through to post-war period on 2 galleries in this building. We also have a science interactive gallery as well. And then the third group I will take into the Holland Gallery, which is the gallery which contains the Royal Navy's very first submarine, Holland 1, which was launched in 1901, and which is a submarine which is contemporary with Sherlock Holmes' period. So the first tour will go on board the submarine round about any minute now. I understand you're on quite a tight schedule, so we're going to be hopefully getting you through the tour of the submarine fairly speedily, and then we'll be swapping over, and you'll all get to do one of the 3 activities.
So the leaders know, the first group on the submarine, what do they do next?
Well, I will. Yeah, absolutely. So, it's your choice. You guys are more reliant first. Whoever's nearest stand, you can just wait for it.
Is this going to be sort of a similar period or an earlier period?
What period is the French submarine?
And it also, there was one that did a Japanese cruiser in Singapore Straits. Are these the side charges?
They're the side charges, yeah, the explosives.
Yeah.
They're released from inside the submarine.
Yeah. But they sometimes had to leave the submarine to release them, didn't they?
If they got jammed,
Yeah.
yes, because
It's like sleeping in a coffin, isn't it? It's that moves other people, Jenny.
Oh, they just added a mirror to make it look
What's a politician doing here?
Yeah.
It's climbing up and down ladders, isn't it?
This is the White Emerson from HMS E11, circa 1915. It was the most famous British submarine of World War I. The crew of the submarine all received medals for the daring and bravery in their patrols inside Turkish water. This Jolly Roger, the only one to bear the Scarlet Pimpernel symbol, the small red flower. During operations in North Africa, Sybil was diverted from her home patrol to pick up members of General Guillemot's staff on the French coast. This is the Jolly Roger from HMS Uphold.
The damage it is all. When we dive, the depth of the submarine is controlled by the forward and the after hydroplanes. That's one of the 4 planes sticking up there, the diamond-shaped piece. There's another one on the other side. They're turned in at the moment. When we go to sea, they're turned out rather like aircraft wings. And depending on the angle we put on them, the submarine can either dive or it can surface. The after planes are turned out all the time. Another one on the other side are the ballast tanks. 5 tanks in that big bulge. To see at the bottom, that is, there's holes in the tanks, in the bottom of them, and water can get in. When the submarine's on the surface, all the main vents are shut, and the ballast tanks are full of high pressure air. Anything up to 4,000 pounds per square inch, put there from large bottles inside the submarine. The high pressure air keeps the water from coming in the holes at the bottom, gives the submarine buoyancy, and we can float. When we're going to dive the submarine, we open all the main vents, the high pressure air goes out to the top of the tanks, water comes in the bottom, makes the submarine heavier, and we can submerge. We want to surface the boat again, we shut all the main vents, push more high pressure air into the tanks, the high pressure air pushes the water out the holes at the bottom, makes the submarine lighter, and we can surface. Fairly simple system, most of the time it works.
Because they got permission from the other side of the water,
Yeah.
it's about 30 minutes tour.
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
I understand you're only on a 30-minute tour.
Yeah.
And the shortest one normally is about 40 minutes, but it can stretch. Doors, all the equipment, torpedoes, everything for this end of the submarine will come down there. Even guests.
Goes on forever.
Where was?
In 47 it was first commissioned.
So it was
That's
after the
60
war then?
Yeah.
It wasn't in...
The first of the A-boats came in about 43, but this particular submarine was commissioned the next one up from this class. We used to do 12 weeks at sea, and I've spent sometimes 11 and a half of those weeks dived. We used to come to periscope depth to do something called snorting, which basically is put a big tube up and suck the air down. But we never actually surfaced for 11 and a half weeks. Submarine. We dived just off Singapore, and we surfaced just off Ireland.
One of my past masters of my livery company.
Now, two main things in the control room are the periscope masts. Search periscope here in the raised position. Big brass tube here is the attack periscope in the lowered position. That obviously can be raised and the search lowered if necessary. Originally designed to be pushed around by hand, but later put a seat on it with an electric motor. The electric motor is controlled by foot pedals. So whoever's using the periscope can just sit on the seat and control the speed it goes round, and also the direction of travel by just pressing down on the foot pedals. The upper lens of the periscope can be moved by this handle here from the horizontal right up to the vertical. So with a 360-degree sweep of the periscope and moving the upper lens, we can see anything within sight, obviously, coming at us either on the sea or in the air. The attack periscope is the same facility, without the seat, but it only has one eyepiece as opposed to the two on the search. The reason for that is that the attack periscope's upper lens is much, much smaller. If you're going to be attacking enemy shipping, you've got to get in fairly close sometimes, so the smaller the upper lens, the more difficult it is to be seen from the ships you're attacking. The safe diving depth for this class of submarine was about 550 feet. But there is a fairly wide margin of safety in that figure. I was on another A-class submarine, the Oryx, and we actually went down to over 650 feet. We didn't mean to do it, and we got up as quickly as we could, and the boat was creaking slightly as we were doing it. But we did actually get up, so I'm awfully glad there is a wide margin of safety in that figure. But always somebody stood here on the blowing panel. Never ever was there somebody less than an arm's length away from the blowing panel. Very important 3 positions. They're not doing anything at the moment, but we'll see why it's important in a moment. The submarine is on the surface at night. We go to red lighting in the control room. This was not to induce. First compartment, last compartment on the right is, could you not go through just yet, please?
Again.
Oh, sorry.
Last compartment on the right is the ship's galley. 2 chefs to make bread, pastry, cakes, all sorts of things in there. Extremely hard working. One submarine owner, the chef not only made a nice cake for everybody on board, but a lovely touch, I thought, he put pink icing. Oh, thank you. I might just... Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Out your head.
The thing is, when you live on it for a long time, you get used to the small space.
Absolutely,
don't you?
yes.
You know,
Oh, yeah,
you adjust
yeah.
to what
Earlier ones,
the
yeah.
earlier ones, because
Yeah.
they were quite small, weren't they?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Did anybody have a problem with claustrophobia? No, that's right.
What about ships? I mean, I've known a chef put on the foreplanes and the afterplanes and work those. One used to come into my radar office and say, how does this work? So, yeah, we did small things of other people's jobs.
But they didn't necessarily train in any other position.
No,
as
oh
well.
no,
They're
they
main-
wouldn't be fully trained,
Yeah.
no.
Yes.
Would you like to come through, please?
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
looking at the galley, it's fair enough, I'm cooked in a small space like that myself. I mean,
For 65?
No, not for 65. There's no cupboard space, I mean, there's nowhere to keep anything, so
Not a lot.
where did they keep it?
Well, there's storerooms under the deck. Not very big, but there are storerooms there.
Yeah.
Somebody's just asked me why I said that most submariners would be in submarines if we didn't have submarines. Nor would any other submarine in the world. Submarines on the surface tend to roll quite badly. When you went through the motor room, the submarine rolled. You tried not to touch some of the metal bits there, because they was all live. If you can follow me, please. I think they're afraid.
Thanks very much.
For the more mature.
Yes.
Well, watch yourself in the back.
Yes,
There we go.
okay.
There we
Yes,
go.
thank you.
Big side so that people in the back can see. Thank you. There was no doctor, no sick bay, no medical staff at all. The only person who had any medical training was someone called the coxswain, who was a senior non-commissioned officer in the submarine. And as part of his coxswain's course, he would go into what used to be Royal Naval Hospital Haslar and be taught how to make poorly submariners better. Amongst the general submarine crews, there was 2 schools of thought.
These things, I was going to say give one to Jane.
Hands, didn't it? Or did it?
Oh, did he?
I don't know.
Shall I give, would you like a brief introduction to the submarine? I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit confused about who I've talked.
And this is where we're getting on the ferry to go across to Gosport. From Gosport, rather. This.
Lily, how are you?
So here we are, ready to get on the ferry from Gosport to take us over to Portsmouth, where we'll be lunching with the Mayor in the banqueting hall.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, HMS Warrior. Yep.
I think they lost one. That was built, I think, it was either 1948. They own the Balmoral. They've got the
Sorry?
Enjoy the drinks that are available at the end of the room.
I don't know how much they are, they're quite expensive. Well, yeah, it'd be an idea to get one.
I've learned a lot.
House isn't big enough.
The museum isn't big enough, so yeah. You have to live in it. Yeah.
Material. It's quite an unusual way we're making the material available to you. Usually you'd be looking in a search room under very controlled conditions. I would ask that there is no food or drink at all in here and absolutely no pens. You are free to take pictures, but not of the individual items, please, just of generally of the room. Be free, off you go. Thank
So this is Sunday morning and we're all going off down to the coach. It's our last breakfast here and here we go. This is Portsmouth Hill and we've just stopped at the viewing point for a 5-minute photo, so looking right out over Gosport and Portsmouth.
You'll see quite clearly the walls of the Roman fort at Portchester, and in its one corner a medieval castle at Portchester, and this is where you can see very well the great Roman fleet which guarded the English shore against Saxon invasion. That's where the fleet was housed.
So here we are at Netley, and that's the chapel, which is the only remaining part of the original hospital.
Don't remember the build-up that Jonathan gave me. You will understand that I'm a poor substitute for the professional who was going to speak to you this morning. My only qualification for speaking to you this morning is A, that I've been here, and B, when Jonathan said you've got to do it, I couldn't think of anybody else to delegate it to. We remember, of course, Dr. Watson proceeded to Netley. Netley was a military hospital, and he went through the course there prescribed for officers who were going to serve in the army. It's a bit difficult, but you'll have to use your imagination to visualize Netley as it was when Dr. Watson was here. What you see there is the chapel. On either side of the chapel, facing Southampton Water, were two enormous wings. And when I say enormous wings, they covered all of the grassy area you see to your right there, and all of the grassy area that you see to the left there. It was one of the biggest buildings in the kingdom. And it was erected after the Crimean War. Those of us who remember Florence Nightingale and the Crimean War will remember that there was much agitation at the time over the very poor medical facilities offered to wounded soldiers in the Crimea. Queen Victoria was one of those who agitated that the War Department should remedy the deficiency that the Crimean War had shown, and it was agreed to build a very large military hospital. A number of sites were considered, and it was thought important to have a site on the water so that casualties from all over the empire could be brought in by water. So that's why, eventually, after considering some other sites, this site on Southampton Water was chosen. The construction commenced, and eventually, in 1860 something or other, it's in my book here, but it doesn't really matter, Queen Victoria came to open the hospital. So you had the chapel, and you had two enormous wings. The wings accommodated, at that time, 1,000 soldiers, 1,000 wounded soldiers, brought in by water from all over the empire. The building was heavily criticised when it was first opened, and continued to be criticised until it was demolished, because it was considered it had been built the wrong way round. Firstly, it was too big, not in terms of the 1,000 beds, but to have it, all the 1,000 beds in one building was thought eventually to be unsatisfactory. Secondly, there were 3 stories, and there were long corridors on the side facing the water. Hello? Back. So the wounded soldiers did not have the opportunity of looking out at the water that might have improved their recovery opportunity. Instead, they looked out of the back at the trees here. The wards were also inconveniently small. They only accommodated some 15 or 20 beds each, and they were all crammed into these wards, lots of different wards. But despite that, the hospital remained until the 1950s. It's obviously what was done here changed over the years. During the war, in the run-up to the D-Day landings, the hospital was taken over by the Americans. It's reported that the Americans ran jeeps up and down the corridors because they were so long that you could do that. And after the war, the Americans handed it back to the British administration, and the hospital remained until the 1950s. By that time, it was regarded as much too big and inconvenient and old and expensive, and it was evacuated and left, and eventually it burnt down. Perhaps an arson attack, who knows, but it was burnt and eventually demolished, everything except the chapel that remains to this day. The site was then taken over by Hampshire County Council and is today the Royal Victoria Country Park. Jonathan mentioned the 70 pence. In fact, inside the chapel, if you choose to go in there, and I would recommend it, there is a 70 pence charge to go in the old chapel, which you pay when you go in. the main door, which is just round the other side. In the chapel, it's no longer used as a chapel, but in the chapel is a display of military medicine over the years, and it's really quite interesting and, in my view, worth 70 pence. But if you all try and go in at once, it'll be too inconvenient, so you might want to try and stagger your entry times.
It just gives you a sense of the place and can really put it into perspective and around in the size. But the military cemetery is really worth having a look at as well. It's look towards the back.
Lovely.
Not in 1904, I hasten to add. Oh, God, it's all changed. What's next? Probably something to do a show thing. Yeah.
Very various items of equipment used in and around the period.
always sort it out. Yes, I do. Yes, I did this one. We moved up 14th of December. Oh, the trouble with the trains is it was only about a couple of days straight through. And got from yes. Yeah, that's right. And we were still sorting stuff out. We got to
Oh, not the potty. Not much of a big bag.
It's architecture.
So here we are, arriving for lunch at the yacht club.
Bar. It was windy, but the important part.
Yes. He said being recorded.
Huh?
So we're up in the bar now, and we will be having lunch here. our last lunch of the weekend at the very nice dining room at the Yacht Club. That's Helen going off from here.
Who's wearing a top coat?
But I did have some fresh fruit.
Oh, that makes
Just a couple more leaving here.
It is, yes.
And there's the sun coming out. Cheerio. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Hope to see you soon. Another
Bye. Cheerio. Cheerio. Safe journey. Sorry. Safe journey.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's mine, guy.
Spare bag in there?
You should have seen her earlier. They never sleep.
Have a nice Christmas.
We'll see you in January.
No, you won't.
All right, we'll see you in the following September.
Yeah.